In the late 1930s, as psychology emerged as a rigorous science, one experiment at the University of Iowa pushed the boundaries of ethics in the name of understanding human behavior. Dubbed the monster study by its critics, this research by Wendell Johnson and Mary Tudor sought to unravel the origins of stuttering, but instead left a trail of psychological harm and moral questions. Conducted in secrecy and suppressed for decades, the monster study exemplifies the dangers of unchecked scientific ambition. This is a research-level examination of its methodology, results, and enduring controversy, a cautionary tale from psychology's shadowed past. The monster study, formerly titled the Tudor study after its primary executor, was conceived in 1939 at the University of Iowa's Stuttering Research Program. Wendell Johnson, a psychologist who himself stuttered and rose to prominence with his diagnosogenic theory, hypothesized that stuttering was not innate, but learned through negative social feedback, specifically parental criticism labeling normal speech disfluencies as stuttering. This sementogenic view posited that such labeling created anxiety, perpetuating the disorder. To test this, Johnson tasked his 22-year-old graduate student, Mary Tudor, with conducting an experiment on vulnerable subjects. 22 orphan children from Davenport, Iowa, aged 5 to 15, recruited from the Iowa Soldiers' Orphans Home. The study ran from January to May 1939, aiming to demonstrate that positive reinforcement could prevent stuttering, while negative labeling could induce an inversion of ethical norms, even by the era's standards. The experiment's design was straightforward yet profoundly manipulative, aligning with behaviorist principles but foreshadowing ethical lapses. The 22 children were divided into 4 groups, 2 experimental and 2 control. Group IA, experimental positive, consisted of 5 stutterers receiving praise for fluent speech, reinforcing Johnson's theory that positive feedback could cure the condition. Group IB control, stutterers, received neutral feedback. The most controversial groups were IIA and IIB. Group IIA included 6 non-stutterers subjected to constant negative labeling. Tutors repeatedly told them their speech was flawed, urging them to watch every word to avoid stuttering. Group IIB, 5 non-stutterers served as controls with positive reinforcement. Sessions occurred bi-weekly, with speech therapy disguised as routine checkups. No informed consent was obtained from guardians, and the orphans already marginalized were unaware of the study's true purpose. Tudor documented changes in speech patterns, self-esteem, and behavior through recordings and observations, testing Johnson's hypothesis that stuttering begins not in the child's mouth, but in the parent's ear. The results of the monster study were mixed, but damning in their implications. In Group IA, stutterers showed some improvement in fluency under positive reinforcement, supporting Johnson's theory that environmental factors could mitigate stuttering. However, the real horror emerged in Group IIA. The non-stutterers exposed to negative labeling developed speech hesitations, self-consciousness, and even lifelong psychological scars. Some children became withdrawn, refusing to speak in class, or exhibiting tic symptoms that persisted beyond the study. Tudor's thesis documented these changes, noting one girl's speech deteriorating from normal to very poor, with emotional distress evident. Johnson viewed the outcomes as validating his diagnosogenic theory, but he suppressed the study, fearing backlash amid rising ethical standards post-World War II. The data was ad hoc, lacking rigorous controls, and the small sample size limited generalizability, yet it inadvertently proved that psychological harm could be induced through suggestion of finding too explosive for publication. The monster study's ethical violations were profound, earning its nickname from Johnson's peers who decried its cruelty. Conducting non-therapeutic experiments on orphans without consent breached emerging codes like the Nuremberg Code, 1947, which emphasized voluntary participation. The induced harm, emotional and developmental, violated do no harm principles, foreshadowing modern IRB, Institutional Review Board, requirements. Johnson, aware of the risks, buried the study in his archives, where it remained until 2001 when the New York Times exposed it, sparking lawsuits from former participants seeking reparations for lifelong speech issues via University of Iowa settlement in 2007. The aftermath reshaped psychology. It contributed to the APA's ethical guidelines in 1953 and highlighted the dangers of ad hoc research. Johnson's theory, while influential, was later critiqued as oversimplifying stuttering's neurological roots. Today, the study serves as a textbook case in ethics courses, reminding researchers that scientific progress must never come at the expense of human dignity. The monster study stands as a stark reminder of psychology's ethical evolution, from unchecked experimentation to rigorous safeguards. Little Albert or Douglas and the Iowa orphans paid the price for knowledge that, in hindsight, was flawed and cruel. As we reflect on this dark chapter, it prompts us to question, at what cost does science advance? Share your thoughts in the comments and subscribe for more untold stories from science, religion, and history.